Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Hack Check podcast. Before we go any further, please make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it far and wide. I've got a very special guest as always today. I've got Mr. Hermie Drotschie.
Hello, hello.
Huge honor for me.
For me too.
Hey, how's it going? I haven't seen you for like a couple of months, it feels like.
Yeah, you haven't been training for a while, so
I've been training just morning times.
morning times. Yeah, but it's been a minute.
Yeah, how you been keeping?
Well, body is sore, had a bit of a shoulder issue as most jiu-jitsu people do. So, but otherwise, well, busy.
Training every couple of days.
Yeah, pretty much just mostly teaching there, and then mostly keeping busy with coaching, and then here and there rolling and sparring when the opportunity presents itself.
I want to get started maybe just on the jiu-jitsu side of things and how you got started in your jiu-jitsu career. How old were you and with who did you start?
So I started in I would say end of 2010. So technically I didn't like go to a gym and was like, oh, this is cool, let me go join a gym. So what happened was my brother was training a little bit. So obviously a lot of people know my brother. He started off training through another guy that he knew, that he played rugby with, I think. And then he started with Rico, I think, who now also coaches me. He started with him in I would say just the beginning of 2010, maybe to the middle of 2010. And then because he was so eager to fight, he wanted to train for a fight. I was in matric in 2010, so I was training rugby in the afternoon. And then when I got home, my brother said, hey man, I need to train for the fight, but obviously all my training partners are busy. Rico's not at home, but he gave me the key to his garage. Let's go train. And I said, dude, there's no way. Firstly, you're older than me. You're way more intimidating. You actually like fighting. I barely fight. I've never really had a street fight in my life. He says, no, man, here's the thing. And this is where he caught me. This is like the sales pitch that he gave me. He's like, you're going to put on gloves and you're going to hit me and I will not hit you. And I'm like, and as a younger brother, I was like, holy crap, I get to hit my brother and he's not going to hit me back. Let's go. And we, so where Rico stayed, where his garage was wasn't that far from us. So we just jogged there. I think it wasn't even 3 kilometers away. And my brother opened the garage and I was like, oh wow, this is what a MMA gym looked like. And that's what they looked like back in the day. There was really no AKAs or, big gyms. It's a lot more commercial now. So back in 2010, it was mostly small gyms, garages, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And my brother's like, here's some gloves. And I had a mouth guard from rugby. So I brought that with. And I had my PT shorts and my t-shirt. And he gave me some shin pads. And he's like, okay, I'm just going to keep my hands up. And so way back when we fought with not headgear. There wasn't really headgear for MMA. So you would fight in the scrum pad. Yeah. And so he had one on. And we were working and he was just moving his head and just finding the movements. Obviously, he wasn't super trained at that stage as well. But even just with the little bit of training he had, I couldn't touch him. Really? As an 18-year-old, you're already especially an 18-year-old male, you're like, hey man, I can fight. I know how to throw a punch. I hit the air so much, I gasped, I couldn't breathe. And I was playing first team rugby. And I was like, geez, I cannot breathe. What is this? And then I remember a few times the bags were hanging and then I would swing and he would just walk forward and I'd be like, oh, and then I try and run away, but I run around the bags and he's like, what are you doing? I'm not hitting you.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, we did I think we did 2 rounds like that, but I was so tired. And then I just closed my eyes and I threw this haymaker. And I think I just clipped him on his mouth and he slightly bled. And I think as he tasted, he was like, screw this.
Not hitting back.
And then it was just me and him in the garage with no my mom to stop us. So he was like, well, now I'm going to hit you back. And I'm like, this is not what we agreed upon. This was not prearranged. But he already had the gloves on. I was like, oh, well, there's nothing I can do. I'm obviously not going to beat him up. And I would just walk. And everyone says, yeah, but he's like, was your body sore? Was he just were you dizzy from kicking? I was like, no. Every time he would fake a punch, I would turn and he would just kick me on my butt every time. And I couldn't sit. It was getting a proper hiding for, I would say proper 3 minutes. And that was like, after that, it wasn't like never get into a fight. It's like, I need to train, because my brother was barely trained. He was just slightly bigger than me. And I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. This means like anyone can just beat me up. So it was also, I told myself it was mostly for fitness, because I would like to continue playing rugby after school, as most guys do. But then after a lot of training, it was good. It was a confidence builder, and I was like, I'd like this more. Than it's a more individualized sport. It feels like I'm gonna like learn a lot more. So a lot of guys that do I want to say a lot of guys that do like team sports, they prefer the camaraderie. But I like to I like to rely on being able to on myself. Like if I make a mistake, I pay for it. Not I don't want to be like because you get that in team sports where I made a mistake, now the team pays. I don't like that, and it's not like, I also don't like if I'm playing in a team sport and that guy makes a mistake. Now I'm like, oh, stupid guy.
You did everything that you're supposed to do.
I did everything I was supposed to do. We still lost, which happened a lot in rugby as well. But yeah, with the training, then I started. From there, I went to Rico's garage a few times, but I really trained. I watched my brother train. I watched because there was a lot of big guys, and I was like, I wasn't like massive. I'm still not massive anyway. So I was like looking at the guys, like, this looks dangerous, but these guys looks like killers, man. And it was mostly back then, it was like either the bodybuilders or the bouncers, or just the guy that like got a fan belt in street fighting. So it's like anyone that just wants to get hit,
trying to upgrade that belt.
Exactly. And then I was like, okay, cool. I'm just gonna watch. And then Rico moved to Paro.
The big glass enclosed like gym,
I think it was there above La Ponta Rosa. And then we were training there, like it was very dodged downstairs, but as soon as you got into the gym, it was fine. Then it was like the actual danger started, where people try to punch and kick you in the face. And that's where I started training with Rico, and then Mike Bernardo would come make a turn, like rarely. But I was always training under Rico. And there was a few times. Then after that, I started with like a little bit of kickboxing. But again, I had to get my how can I say, my heart was a little bit weak at that stage. So as soon as someone would start hitting me, and I would like wilt them. Like that's why I started, like, my brother trained for 6 months. He started fighting. I trained for like almost 3 years before I actually started fighting. Like I competed in no-gi grappling, but before fighting amateur fight, I had like a long training period. So I think I competed no-gi grappling at, what is it back then? It was gas. I competed gas like after like I think a year and a bit of training. And that was quite the eye-opening experience, because I very much gassed.
Everybody's got that story.
Everyone's got that gas story. I remember that like clear as day. That's fucking horrible, because we had so it was like a round robin bracket in the beginners, and all the brackets, I think the only was the advanced that was single elimination. So if you lost, you were out. I'm not sure, because I obviously wasn't advanced, but I know that's when Rico was also still rolling. So I was rolling in the beginner division. I rolled, I think, 5 guys, because we were 6 guys in the bracket. I rolled 5 times. Out of the 5 times, I got 2 submissions, and the other 3 times I rolled like for 10 minutes straight. So it was win, lose, or draw. So if no submission, you draw. And my first 2 fights were 10 minutes. So the second guy I also fought at the end for gold. But as I was like rolling with him, he pulled guard, and I was like, what's this? And then I just sat in his guard, and he triangled me. But it was like we played around for like, I'd say like quite a few minutes, like 8 or so minutes before I just fell into his guard, and he triangled me. I was like, oh, this is great. And I was like just dead tired. So that was an interesting experience.
What was the scene like back then? Because I know you said people were, because I dabbled a bit in Jiu Jitsu like in 2008, around there for a couple of months. And it was also just people in the garages, basically.
It was.
And it was like a handful of people that maybe knew about it, and then some people that spoke about it but didn't do it,
There's a lot of times where people would like speak about it, but it's like, like some will, sexual thing almost. People are like, oh, you're gonna roll around with some dudes.
Yeah, with their legs around your waist.
I feel like a lot of people are trying to. Some people like Craig Jones are trying to bring that back. So no, it was quite it was quite different. It was also like a. Now you can say like now I can go, hey, I do MMA, and people are like, oh, like cage fighting, or people are like, oh, like UFC,
like Conor McGregor.
Yeah, oh, you look exactly. But then if you were like, I would have to go, oh, I do MMA, and then people be like, what? I'd be like mixed martial arts. They'd be like, what?
Like karate.
I'm like, no, I would usually go like wrestling, and they're like, oh, okay. Like with the spandex, or like without the spandex, they're like, that's more gay.
That's weird.
Okay, never mind. But yeah, it was. A lot of the times there wasn't like really kids doing it. So there was no, back then there weren't like kids competitions, like not that I could remember. And it was very like a lot of garage. I remember like Hanu from 10th Planet also out of his garage, Rico out of his garage. I think Anthony Kettle back then when he had Black Panther or Panthers, yeah. He had an actual gym, which was, I mean, quite cool. That's where we had a lot of the Panther fight nights as well back then. Yeah, I think my brother's first fight was at a Panther fight night as well. But a lot of them were just like guys that fight, or they didn't like transition a lot. So it wasn't like someone that came from school. So I think I was part of like the first, you know, the people that started purely with MMA. Like there's not a lot of them. There's a lot of people from way back that started with wrestling and went over, like if you look at the UFC, the new crop is all that, like they started right in school. They started with MMA and then they start with BJJ and they go up. Whereas like a lot of them back then were like guys like, oh, I did some boxing and let's box, or I street fight and now I fight, or I did Taekwondo and now I want to do this, or I did karate as a kid and I have nothing else to do with my time. So it changes. Like it changed from what it was back then till now. Now it's more of like the arts of mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
Back then it was more of like we're here to fight and, you know, maybe we'll learn some cool shit, you know?
Yeah, back then, I don't know, Rico was saying there was like, before fights, you could speak to each other and be like, agree on rules, basically. There was no like set rules. Yeah. It wasn't unified rules or anything like that. So if you wanted to bite and I was cool with biting, we could bite each other in fights.
It was, there were about a few guys that were like, they would stand at the back and be like, I want to headbutt someone. Yeah. And the other guy's like, yeah, but we're fighting. So he's like, you want to do it? He's like, yeah.
Okay, let's just do it.
So way back, I remember there was a few guys like that would like have headgear on and get ready, and the other guys like wouldn't have headgear, and you'd be like, but you're not wearing headgear. It's like, I don't want to wear headgear. And the other guy's like, I don't want to wear headgear. The rest like, okay, don't wear it then. But now it's like, and then like in middle of fights, the guys, the headgear, because it was the scrum hats, the headgear would shift the whole time.
You couldn't see anything.
And then you couldn't see, or the one guy, as you would hit him, you would go, screw you, and then pull it. And then it covers your face. And then they would say, no, and then the ref would take it off and just chuck it to the side and be like, you know, good luck. But also back then, so now it's changed because they've got like uniformed like socks, like the sock shin pads, and the bigger, I think it's like the 9-ounce gloves, the small 9-ounce gloves, but it's like still much more padded as opposed to the UFC, those like 4-ounce gloves.
4 ounce,
So the guys back then, I don't think they wore shin pads. They just wore the headgear and gloves. And then it changed to, okay, gloves, but shin pads, but no headgear. And then it changed to the bigger gloves with shin pads. And, you know, it changed a lot.
I mean, I've been punched with that headgear on and obviously without the headgear on. And to me, there's not really much of a difference.
No, I find with the headgear, I've sparred a lot with headgear on. And I find it, firstly, it gives me like that confidence of, I can get hit. It's, you know, I don't like it for that. I know a lot of guys spar with it and, you know, whatever. I usually sparred with it only not to get cut.
Okay.
But I wouldn't spar with it like on the daily. Because if you don't fight with it, what's the point? But if it's like, you know, for sparring, if you spar with the headgear on, I feel like you are more prone to getting hit because your vision is kind of like limited. And then your head's a little bit bigger than it usually is. And you're feeling covered. You're like, oh, okay. It's like wearing a body pad. Like, I'd rather get hit there Like I'm wearing headgear, hit me in the head, I don't care. But cumulatively, I think it's like way worse.
Yeah, it doesn't really lessen the impact actually.
No, and it sucks in MMA if you're wearing headgear because it's very quick for it to just turn slightly unless you've got like a proper exact fitting headgear, which some people do. Like a lot of guys wear it just for the ears so that they don't get collies, but everyone's different. I just don't. I used to spar with it a few times, and then I felt like I would get rocked so much more. And then I took it off, and like the punches land, but then I address them immediately. Where in like with headgear, I get hit, and then I'm like, whatever. And then I get hit again and again and again. And then by the time I'm like, oh shit, I have to address this, it's a bit too late.
And now, but now back then, so I know there was the Panther Fight Nights, but if you wanted to fight, like, was it just gyms hosting stuff mostly, or, you know, was there already like a path starting to form for people that wanted to fight back then?
So we had the Panther Fight Nights, and then I think it was CFL started.
Oh yeah, Cape Fight League.
Cape Fight League started way back. I remember, I think it was CFL 1 or 2 that was at the Velodrome, but it was like, you just see this tiny cage and then this whole massive place, but it wasn't like packed. It wasn't like, you know, fully full. It was like just like you could see the people walking around there if you're sitting up there. It was funny, but I mean, that was like the first time because they would like, they gave everyone like this Rockets gear, and everyone got stuff. Like when my brother got a lot of the like gear, and when I saw like some of my teammates getting stuff like the pants and the shin pads and stuff or whatever it was, I was like, damn, I want that. I want to fight just to get stuff. But it was a way more professional way of doing it. But then also, I think that's when, because Rico had like one intermediary MMA thing. So you said there's like, you have a professional, you have amateur, and then you've got nothing. So how do you transition from going, so you can do a grappling event with no striking, but then amateur events is full striking in a cage, everything, and then it's professional. So what's the in between? And I think he had one event where it was like a in-between event that was like for adults, but no head striking, and then full grappling and body shots, almost like teenage MMA is now. So it was like an intermediate thing where it's like, there's not a lot of pressure because it's not in a cage, it's on mats. It's like the grappling event, but it's with striking, which was quite nice. We did it. It wasn't like a packed event. It was like barely any people. I think that's also why we didn't do another one. But it was very interesting. And the weight categories was like, there was like only one weight category at the day because there was like 6 people entering. So it was, we held it like it was a gas, but we had like this, it was like a mini MMA tournament. It was like literally almost all the guys from our gym, and then 2 guys from another gym, I think, which was quite interesting.
Yeah, Rico and so CFL, I think, wasn't Chris involved in starting that, or did he just fight there, Chris Bryant? I think I know he fought involved there, but I think he was involved. The only reason I'm asking is because like Rico and Chris back then sort of had to make things happen most of the time.
Yeah,
you know,
that's the thing. There wasn't like I would almost say jealous of the kids these days, man. They don't know how well they have it, because like what we had was like barely anything. Like obviously in the Western Cape, there's not a lot of grappling competitions. There's like the ADCCs, there's the IBJJF, AJP, that one. And then there's now the Alpha that's starting up again. But other than that, there's not really like Submission Kings is in Joburg and BE, Durban there. There's not this side. So it's difficult here. Now the guys for the MMA, they have, they've got the grassroots event. There's another one coming 22nd July, which is awesome. There's the Western Province. They can go to SA. They can go. A few of our guys are going to nationals in, I think it's in Angola. So that's like a lot of small steps they can do. They can get colors in. They can get Western Province. They can get South African colors in this stuff. Way back, they were like, "You want to fight in this gym?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, let's do it. And let's fight in the gym." And then you're like, "Okay, now we're gonna do CFL." Then it's like, "Oh, PFC also had their fight nights. I don't know if they still do it, but they had their PFC fight nights, which are 14. But there was like it was very scattered. And then, but now it's like the kids have, they've got like the small progression. They can build up their fighting career before they go. But then a lot of them want to rush it. A lot of the guys also want to rush it because they want to get to that professional, because
yeah.
you know, why take all the risk but have no reward to show? You got like a medal and you're like a cool photo. I mean, you know, why not get paid for it? But then also when you get paid, it starts to get a little bit more intricate also.
It's nice now because it's a proper sport. You know,
It
like
is,
back then,
it's-
like you
yeah.
said, it was kind of like you had to explain to people what it was, and a lot of people used to. People thought, I don't know. Some people were telling me before Never Back Down came out, they're like, "Oh, this is finally an MMA movie, and it's going to be so cool and everything." And then you see like what the movie's about, and you realize that's why people gave it a bad name, because it's like they saw it as like a barbaric thing, and you know, one guy fighting 4 guys, and
exactly.
now it's a proper sport with organizations, proper organizations here as well.
Yeah, exactly. So like way back, you'd have a lot of guys untrained. So it would be guys that are like, you know, fighting in the events that are completely untrained, that were like, I don't know, they maybe trained a little bit, they lifted weights and they hit a bag, and then they were like, I want to sign up for a fight. Now it's more like regulated, so you have to be like, no, you have to be affiliated with a gym, you have to have a head coach, and you have to have a sign off, and it's a lot more like, we didn't just let everyone fight back then either, but now it's a little bit more controlled, which is very nice, especially with the younger kids. Like back then, obviously you were just like, you want to fight, do it. You're 17, doesn't matter, it's just by size. Now it's like, no, you have to fight this and that. So it's a lot more guided, regulated. It's a lot more in a controlled environment, which also is good for the sport, because I think also way back, if like, let's say you had a son that was like 15, but he doesn't like rugby, he likes, you know, he doesn't want to box, but he wants to wrestle. But now there's no wrestling clubs near him, because there's not a lot of wrestling clubs, I think, in South Africa anyway. Then they wanted, but they saw MMA, they want to do MMA. Now this parent brings a child to an MMA gym. They see a bunch of grown men just beating each other up, and they're like, no, thank you. Now it's like, no, there's kids doing it. There's, you know, it's a lot more controlled. They can compete. Then they can show you, here's some kids actually competing in it. So it's a lot more, you know, safe. It's a lot safer environment also for like the average Joe to just start. You don't have to be peak athlete just to compete. You can just start from like zero. You can start jiu-jitsu from any age. There's no like, oh, you're over 30, you can't start, it's too late. It's like, no, you can start at 70. You can start, I mean, I've seen people at 75 only get their first stripe on their white belt.
Wow.
So it's ridiculous the amount of like growth it has had, and like impact it has had on the normal person, like the normal person that just sees it and goes, I don't know if I can do that. It's like, why not? If that person can do it, if this kid can do it, why can't you? You know? And
of course, then if you get to the one thing I'd just like to see, though, is when you get to the professional ranks, that there might be a couple more organizations, you know, because EFC's been there all the time. So they've been there, I think, since 2008. I don't know what Darren Till's doing now, if his Guerrilla FC is a professional event or
first I've heard of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did you see him? There was a photo of him and Zuma's son in South Africa that everybody had. Yeah, that was why he was here to start. He started Guerrilla FC, but I haven't seen if it's amateur or professional.
I wonder if that's why Luke Rockhold was decided.
I actually don't. Yeah, that's true.
He was here as well.
But he was watching the EFC event now the last time. The one that what is the main event there? I forget now. I think that's the one when JP won the interim title for the middleweight. Luke was watching, or the one after that. Anyway, might be, yeah. But how many?
Wasn't that the one that Igu Kabesa fought?
It could be. That's was that the main event?
Could be featherweight title.
Sure. Anyway, the last EFC event, I think it was 104 or something. But so you also fought in EFC. But how many? Just before we get to that, how many amateur fights did you have before you actually turned pro, and what was the process to then turn pro and go into?
So the process hasn't changed that much since I turned pro. I think they kind of skim off the top, or they did and they still do. I think it's just a little bit more to a bigger degree these days. Meaning that like when I turned, so I had, how much was it? Like 6 or so amateur fights, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't fought in a very, very long time. So 6 or so. And then I had the CFL title, lost the CFL title. I also had a kickboxing fight in between and a lot of grappling fights. And then at one point, like everyone, like the guy I lost to immediately turned pro after that, but I don't think he had as many fights as I did, but he could turn pro. I then went, I said, look, I want to fight more. And then they said, there's no one that wants to fight. There's a lot of guys. So back then you could also like, this guy wants to fight. Because I remember they gave me a call. They said, this guy wants to fight we're going to fight for this title. And I said, yeah, sure. Perfect. I'm done. I'm done. It's 2 months. It's more than enough time. And then like the guy would say, okay, cool. And then you hang the phone up. And then 5 seconds later, okay, so he doesn't want to fight you right now. And then I'd be like, okay, cool. My brother had the same issue. He also had like only like 5 amateur fights before he turned pro. So I was like, okay, cool. What's the next step? Because I can't find a fight now. And then a lot of the guys that want to fight have only like one fight. And then their coach is like, yeah, but they don't want to fight you because he's more of a stand-up guy. So way back they would also go, oh, it's Rico's guy. No, he's going to grapple you. He's going to don't grapple him. Don't get some guy from a boxing gym to fight my guy. And then they said, yeah, but actually just you have to have a 70% win ratio, or you have to have won all your fights. And I had, let's say, I think 6 fights and 1 loss. So they were like, okay, it's fine. You can go for, and then I went, so the process is still the same. You have to write a test, like a pro license test. You have to know the rules. You have to know the do's and don'ts, even though some of the guys I don't think some of them write those things. They just scribble it, and then the coach is like, sure. And then, they fix the rest. I sat there with everything because I actually studied for it. But it's still an open book test, so you can write it. And
it's not always easier, though, with an open book test. But
no, but the questions is very, very, like, I was like, I feel like I'm very knowledgeable when it comes to rules. Less so now with the kids' rules because it changes with the ages and stuff. But with like professional rules, I'm still like, I feel up to date. And I was looking at it like, what the hell? And then they're like, okay, what kick is legal to a downed opponent? And I'm like, okay, it's an axe kicks, but that's it. And then they're like, yeah, but and then like the way they phrase it's almost like writing your driver's license. You're like, I know what I'm supposed to say, but it doesn't seem right.
Which answer is more right than the other one?
Exactly. Yeah. And then you write that, and then so what I had to do is I had to do like a lot of bag work, and then I had to grapple. I had to actually in my pro license, I had to grapple Francois Kundari, which I later also fought in the UFC. So I grappled him and I was like, Jesus, this guy's fucking strong. And this guy's hectic strong. And then they were like, oh, who do you want to fight? I was like, Francois? I was like, let's take the strong guy again. Yeah. Which was interesting. But that's also to show how small the community was then. It's like,
did he just happen to be there, or why specifically?
No, because I think Anthony Kettle was part of the committee to get the pro licensing, and he was training under Anthony. So Anthony brought him to just, because if I was like, I'll grapple one of the guys from my gym. Obviously, if the guy's like trying to be nice, he's like, oh, they're watching. Okay, you do this, and I'll just sit here and like kind of grapple you.
Yeah, don't resist.
Like, my brother was also there. He was like, I think he was holding pads for me or something. But they recorded so they would video record everything, and then they would like gauge you and score you on every aspect of MMA, and then they would ask you. So with me, they just made me grapple like from certain positions, and then do like shadow box and also do pad and bag work. But these days it's a little bit more hectic with they'll ask you like, show me a triangle, show me an armbar, show me a key lock, show me a leg lock, show me a defense for guillotine, show me a guillotine, show me a double leg, show me defense. There's a lot more. They added a lot more like categories and subcategories into the pro licensing, which I'm all down for. I think should be like the standard. Like if a guy doesn't know how to escape a guillotine, it's like, yo, well, I just, show me 2 ways to escape a guillotine. Show me 3 ways, So what I did also is I like when I showed them the stuff, I would also coach them through it. Just to like for myself. Yeah. It's like, when you're taking your driver's license, you're like, instead of just looking where you should look, you say where you're looking, just so it's easier for them, because then they know you doing it. So I was like the same. And that also helped with like actually being able to know the techniques, know what I'm doing. But then after that, it was quite the wait. And then I think I took a year before I got my license. And then it was like a year before I actually.
Why was it so long? Was it because you you weren't ready, or
I
you couldn't
don't
find
know.
anybody, or
I couldn't I don't know. I couldn't find a fight that was like, I can't remember. I think also it took a while for me to get sign with the EFC, so it took some time. But yeah, it was. I don't know. I think I just took a year. I don't know. There's a lot of if I fought earlier, it would have been felt rushed. Same with training. I trained for a little bit, but then I was like, I can fight now, but I'll take a little bit of a gap just to get more knowledgeable.
You want to be 100% sure before you actually get in there.
Also, the fact that I came off a loss, I was like, I need to work on a few things.
Right.
But when I lost, it wasn't like I got submitted or anything. I was hella sick after cutting weight. So I was I was throwing up the day before. I was throwing up.
Hectic.
But I felt in my heart, I was like, there's no way I'm pulling out.
Yeah. But why? What did you just have to cut too much weight, or was it too soon?
I couldn't put the weight back on. I cut the weight and I was like, I was fine. And then I could not put the weight back on. Yeah, I was throwing up the whole time. Afterwards, I was on almost like what's that air machine? Almost like a ventilator.
Yeah,
I was
ventilators.
I was on that, was sitting there at the back because I couldn't fill my lungs with air.
Cheapers.
Yeah, I was doing pads at the back. So if you've ever warmed up for a fight, it's you don't feel like you're there. You're just your arms are like noodles. And I was warming up and I was I would do one combination. I'd be okay, just let me. And then Rico was looking at me, he's like, you don't have to take this fight. I was like, no, let me do this.
You were here now. Yeah. You're already committed.
And I think I still took it to the third round. So I was yeah, I was at some point, the one guy congratulated me on my loss because I lost so well, because he was like, no, you were standing there with your hands down. I was like, yeah, I couldn't pick my arms up, but then I was still slipping punches. And the guy took a step back and I threw I think this big left hook and I almost rocked him. I had no power in it, but it just hit him clean. And I was like, I don't know what to do. I can't shoot. You're too far from me.
Yeah.
And I just I kind of fell into him and he took me down. And then I just I was in turtle and he was just landing punches. And I just couldn't do anything from there. So, but then after the license, I think I felt I need to get everything where I want it. I'm quite perfectionist in that way. I don't want to leave any stones unturned.
Right.
Yeah.
Was it a big mental thing more than anything?
I think so, yeah. I don't think it was. I think I could have fought after the day after signing, but I think it was a mental thing I needed to get over. Need to, fight my inner bitch, if you will.
Right. Was Rico still fighting back then, or?
When I was doing amateur, he was fighting.
Is it?
He was still fighting. I think he only had the one fight in UFC, I think.
Yeah, I think it was at UFC 1, I think, or something like that, wasn't it?
No, I think it was a bit late. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But he fought, what's that guy's name?
Yeah, the Calvin Robinson, wasn't it?
No, I think he would have fought Calvin Robinson after that.
Oh, they
both hurt themselves.
Yeah.
What did he fight? James something, wasn't it? I can't remember. But anyway, I remember that fight because way back they didn't have Super Sport or eSport or whatever. What's that? SABC Sports or anything. They had it they would show it at New Metro, and then everyone would go to the cinema and watch it there. I remember that clear as day because Ruan Potts used to train by us. He trained for his title fight there by us. Awesome guy, very nice. It was nice training with him. But when I was training there, I didn't click that. Oh yeah, wait, Rico fought, and then Ruan is also fighting. They're both heavyweight, and Rico is pretty much the next guy up to fight if Ruan wins. And in your head, you're you don't make that connection immediately. And then when we were in the cinema, we were sitting, and Rico was sitting in front, and I was sitting right behind because the whole gym was sitting there watching. And I don't think any of our guys fought that time. I'm not sure. Oh, well, except for Ruan, obviously. We trained with him. And then in the cage, they were asking Ruan, hey, so who's next? Would you like to fight Rico next? And then Rico stood up and he was raised his hand. And everyone was hey! Yeah. And then I think Ruan said, no, he doesn't have enough experience in the UFC because Rico only had one fight in the UFC. So then Ruan fought someone else. And then obviously Rico wanted to get another fight in, but then it took he got injured and then he was retired, so
yeah,
didn't happen.
So
unfortunately.
did you get to, because the only reason I ask is, was it with the EFC, like, did they approach you, or do they just know you through the gym? You know, like, does Rico speak to them? Like, how back then, because now you got social media and all that kind of stuff, you can,
Now you
you
can
know, just DM a person and you say, like, you know, let's
exactly.
talk.
I think it was between my brother and Rico that they talked to EFC and then notified, because I didn't really message anyone. Not that I can recall. It was when end of 2017-ish. Yeah. So then I signed a 4-fight contract or a 6-year contract or something. But they messaged me and I said, then they sent the contract through and I signed. I think way back, most of the guys also, like your coach would contact EFC and say, listen, this guy's got his pro license now. But yeah, for a lot of guys, like I think my brother also, he went through Rico, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
And then you had the fight, you won the fight impressively, and then you never fought in EFC again. Why? What happened there?
Always leave him wanting more. You know?
Fair enough.
So, it was a few things, man. It was after the fight, I would have loved to get back in there, but like I think I took a week off of fighting, and then I was training like 2 weeks later, and I was like trying to get, like I was just rolling, and I felt like I was framing on people's hips, and I couldn't pressure on anyone's hip with my right arm. I was like, something's not right. And then I went in to the doctor. I went in for a scan, and he's like, no, you got an impingement. So I had an impingement here on my shoulder. Then I had to go in for an operation, but EFC was nice there, because I messaged them and I said, listen, I think it is from the fight, because I didn't train anything before. I wasn't sore before the fight, and as soon as I started training after the fight, like I obviously took a week off, so I didn't notify them about anything. Like I didn't feel it the day of the fight or the night after. I felt my ankle a little bit, well, my leg and my ankle. My ankle, I think, from a kick, and my leg I felt from front shot, because he lifted my leg up, so my leg was kind of relaxed, and then he just unloaded with like a kick on the nerve, and it just like hurt very, very badly. But then like with training, I told them, and they were very nice. They said, no, we'll sort it out for you, and they sorted out. And then I had to have an operation here, and then after the operation, my uncle passed away, and then my dad passed away as well. And then after that, it was like a big thing. They did message me a while later, but after that, like, since if you're working and coaching, then you know it's going to take a certain amount of money, which obviously it's difficult, because I'm only 1-0 as a professional fighter. So it's difficult for them to go, we're going to pay you tens of millions, which I wasn't expecting, but like at least pay me exactly what you paid me for the previous fight,
Right.
But now they were like, no, we're going to pay you less.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I was like, that doesn't make sense to me. And training wise, and I'm pretty sure every fighter would agree, like training, it takes a lot of money. Like just getting to the gym, okay, unless you live next to the gym or above or in the gym, it takes a lot of money to get to the gym. It takes a lot of money to eat a certain way, to cut the weight. That's also why you get a lot of guys in UFC that are fighting, but you don't see them like ripped. It's because they're fighting at their walk around weight, because cutting weight also costs money.
Yeah.
And then training, like if you've ever had an injury and actually tried to continue training, like it's easy to go, I hurt my shoulder, I'll take a week, I'll take 2 weeks. It's difficult if you're fighting in 2 months and going, I hurt my shoulder, how do I fix it so I can keep training?
Yes.
You can't just go, I'm just going to do legs. It's not you're not lifting weights.
Yeah.
It's like if I have to train boxing, I have to train kickboxing, I have to train jiu-jitsu, I have to wrestle.
You got to work around it.
I've got to do my strength and conditioning. I've got to do my road work. I've got to do everything. You can't just not have it's a all body sport. It's one of the few, sports that you got to work from your toes to your head. You got to be, fighting ready. And it takes a lot of money. And when I started doing like the calculations, it's like, okay, so it's cool if I go in there, I'm going to make, so let's say I go to, because then it was like, by that time we were fighting only in Joburg, because they canceled the
Cape Town
events, which was horrible for us, because now I didn't have a lot of guys that was like, okay, because they sponsored me for one fight, but I didn't get a lot of money because I didn't have a lot of fights. So I got stuff. Okay, I had some people like that were like, "Oh, I'd cut your hair for you." And I was like, that's awesome. I had like some people that gave me money, and then other people, clothing companies that were like, "We're not gonna sponsor you. We did it as a favor to your brother." I was like, which I was very grateful for. But that's not gonna happen if I'm fighting in Joburg.
Yeah.
Like, no one in Cape Town wants to sponsor guys. Not a lot of guys want to sponsor guys from Cape Town to fight in Joburg. So
which makes sense because I mean all of the stuff is here. So
yeah, your brand is here. Why would you go? It's like, okay, but it's like, okay, yeah, I'm going to be on Supersport. It's like, yeah, but not everyone's on Supersport. Like, there's a lot of prelim guys that like they only get sponsored because their gym is sponsored. So it makes a big difference. And when I started doing like, I started checking the money, and I was like, I mean, even if I win, I'm only bringing back $1,000. But then also I have a job. I have a 9 to 5. I have to take off from that job. So like that's also like costing me now, because now at the end of the year that's costing me money again, because now I don't have enough leave. So it's difficult, man. Like, not saying I wouldn't fight. Like, obviously this year I'd love to obviously finish the wedding planning and getting the wedding done and the honeymoon and all that stuff. And then I mean next year I'd love to be actually active, not just not active at all. You know, I'm still not, I'm not 50, which is, not fighting prime anymore. I don't know what fighting prime is anymore.
I don't know either, but I thought I was sort of like still young enough, and then it's just injury after injury after injury, and I'm not even training that hard.
Exactly. If you think about like people are like, yeah, fighting prime, you're like from your 29 to like 33 maybe, and you're like, yeah, and Yoel Romero, who's he then?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, and then Randy Couture. People, they are older people that just used to do very well. But then you get old people that are like, or guys that are starting young and then getting to like 30, and they're like, their body is just shutting down.
Yeah.
So, you got to take the pros and the cons. Like, obviously I'd love to fight, but it's difficult. There has to be, at least you have to bring something back. It's not like, oh, okay, you're going to bring 100 brand back. What's the point? Then I could fight amateur. I could do, just grappling events if possible.
So are you looking to do MMA or Jiu Jitsu or both? What are you?
I'd love to do both. Like, I'd love to, yeah, I feel like both is easily attainable here because of the events are so few and far between. I mean, just look at someone like JP Kruger. He also he had a MMA like title fight, and then like the next week he did like the Submission Kings. So I mean, not saying if he can do it, anyone can. I'm just saying if you can, like,
it's possible.
It's possible because if you time it right, the time. Obviously, if you have an easy fight and a good training camp and you come out of the fight uninjured, but if you go and say, "Oh, come every week," like I see a lot of guys in UFC also, they fight every month almost now. So it's crazy. Like some of the guys, but also the guys you see at UFC competing a lot is also guys, it's like the only guys you see. Like there's here and there's guys that'll compete every 3 months, but like this, they have their own thing that they do. A lot of them like maybe own a gym, and then some of them have like a nice job that's like, very
flexible with
time.
Yeah.
So it's different from person to person. Where I am currently, it's difficult to say, oh, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna fight and train, because I work for a school, so it's difficult to say, no, I'm just gonna take off. It's like, no, you can take off certain times. So you kind of have to schedule it better. Like grappling events is not that bad. Even if you get injured, it's not like you have like a massive laceration on your eye.
Yeah. You just gotta watch out for your knees and your ankles and a leg lock, maybe.
Exactly. I mean, if you have a seated job, I don't. But if you have like a desk job, you're fine. You just stretch your leg out there, and you should be fine. But I mean, you see a lot of guys. Like there was a lot of guys that just fell out of UFC as soon as like there was like a shift that happened. A lot of guys just fell out and started doing their own thing, and then maybe here and there they'll start fighting. And then a lot of guys transitioned to overseas because they had the right record for it.
Yeah. What weight would you fight at now? Because you're not, I mean, you fought at lightweight the last time, eh?
I fought at a catchweight, technically, because I was supposed to fight Saxon Delafield. But he got injured, so he pulled out. That's why I fought Francois.
Okay.
So they like phoned me and they were like, we've got 3 opponents for you. Which one would you like to fight? And I said, I'd love to fight obviously the guy with, close to similar experience than me. And they said, okay, but he can only make 73. So I said, but I'm like very close. Can we make it 72? And they said, yeah, we fought it. 72. So now I think I would fight at probably welterweight. Or I can make 77. I'm not too obese just yet.
Yeah.
So, and I'm constantly training. So I think the weight, it's easy to cut the weight. You don't struggle that much.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm sure if you want to go to EFC, I'm sure there'll be a chance for you again to go fight there, because
I'd love to.
I honestly think that they need to put, like, they need fighters. That's the first thing. But also, you've got a lot of experience in fighting in jiu-jitsu and everything in general, any event. So I'm not saying they're only going to take you because they need fighters. I'm not trying to say that, but
but also that.
but look, I mean, it's I say that in it's a good thing, because I think even now there's like talk of Mark. I think it's the champion is also leaving, possibly.
But Mark Hume.
Yeah, possibly. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's all like, so UFC is an amazing promotion. Like the amount of, how can I say, production value they have is, up there with UFC. It's up there with like KSW and all, like Bellator and all the big places, ONE FC. It's up there with them. But the problem is also the guys only use it to get to the next thing, because obviously if you're fighting and if you're staying in South Africa, or almost anywhere in Africa these days, if you're fighting for UFC, like the money is like there. But if you're fighting anywhere overseas, like if they pay you 10,000 euros, that's like, you sorted for, like, I can imagine Dricus and Cameron, like when just they fight there, bonus, just fighting there, even without the bonus. I mean, imagine like getting $75,000, like just as a bonus above your salary. That would be, next level. But here, if you get like a bonus, if you get it, I haven't heard about anyone really getting an EFC bonus.
Really?
I've heard of guys saying they were awarded one. I was awarded one for the submission of, because back then they did submission of the night.
Right.
Yeah, but now they just everyone's just a performance bonus.
Okay.
I don't know who's gotten that money.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know who of the guys have actually gotten the money for the performance bonuses. Probably here and there, probably the higher up guys who actually fought in the main events, stuff like that. There's probably someone, I just haven't heard of it. But the money is kind of like, it comes and then it just goes again, because it's not like, it doesn't translate dollars versus rands and stuff.
So you've almost got to, like that's probably why everybody uses it as a stepping stone, because you got to have money. Like in any job you've got to have money, and then you've got to have like sense of enjoyment or like career path, and they've got to balance. So you might not have a lot of money, but you'll have a lot of like career path or sense of enjoyment. So they kind of balance each other out. Or maybe on the opposite end, people get paid a lot of money to do a job that they don't want to do. So I guess you got to have it as that low pay, take it to the next step. And these days, I mean, even people, you see people do like 3 wins in the EFC, and then they go, then it's title shot.
Yeah.
And then,
which is kind of ridiculous.
Which is crazy. Yeah.
You don't see that anywhere unless it's like a Brock Lesnar. It's just like, but even now, it's like guys with, like, unless you have a super big name, like you don't see guys with like, I would almost say single figure fight careers going for titles. It's there. It's very, very scarce. I can't think of any off the top of my head that anyone has ever, other than like a Brock Lesnar or old school UFCs, guys is
Alex Pereira though. That's only because he had
but that's because of the beef. But again, now it's a name. It's his name that does that. It's not like, it's not his, and it's also, I mean, how many kickboxing fights did he have? There's a lot of guys here that have like, they've only have like amateur MMA, and then they go. Like, there's a few guys in EFC that like, it's possible for them to go to the next step. I'm not saying EFC isn't, but it's, UFC and Bellator and ONE FC, it's just that, international, you can, really, really gain a huge experience. You can get like, I don't know, just your name out there, whereas a lot of guys from EFC, you see guys like 2-0 jump on a cage and go, I want my belt. It's like, that makes no sense, my guy. For fight, get like a fight where you have to actually show toughness. Get a fight where you actually dominate the guy from pillar to post that doesn't quit. Get experience in there, and then you go and ask for a title shot. I heard about guys that are like 3-0, and then the UFC will be like, "Hey, you want to fight for a
Title
title?"
shot, yeah.
Then they're like, "No, what?" But now the guys are like they're chasing for a title because obviously they want to go to a title, maybe defend it once, maybe defend it twice, and then move on. And it shouldn't be like that. Like, if it's a title, it's still an UFC title. It's still a big thing. I mean, I was very happy when Luke got his title. It was very, it was good seeing him because we were training way back when.
Yeah, in Barrow.
In Barrow, training.
Yeah, that same glass
same
enclosure.
Glass enclosure, yeah. So we were training there with a bunch of, almost that back then. It was all killers back then. It felt like it. Maybe it was just because I was still beginner, but it felt like everyone there was like capable of, professional fighting. I mean, we had a guy, Ivor Peterson. He fought Temba Garimbo 3 times. He beat him twice, I think. He beat him. No, he fought him. I think he fought him twice, and he beat him twice. And where's Temba now? He's in the UFC, getting Dwayne Johnson to sponsor him.
Yeah.
So
I wonder if that's happened already.
I don't know.
But that was crazy. Yeah, you're right.
So it's like, but that also shows like, the commitment you have. If you continue on the path and you just keep grinding it out. I mean, some guys like they have the potential, the talent, and then they just don't know what to do with it, and then they just don't have the time, or their body kind of doesn't allow them to, like, maybe they reach their prime and then they're kind of tapering off, but they've still got all the talent and all the skills, but they can't like continue training 3 times a day, 4 times a day. And then other guys, they just like, they don't have the talent, but they're constantly working. They're constantly trying to get better. They're trying to learn. They're trying to improve every day. And then it just, sooner or later, it will show.
And look at the drive and the motivation, the perseverance to see it out.
Exactly.
There's a lot of people that quit something before if they just carried on, they would have actually had a good chance of making it.
I honestly believe jiu-jitsu is one of the sports where you don't have to have any talent. You have to continue with it. I promise, if anyone just starts jiu-jitsu, like, the thing is, like, some people don't like the claustrophobia vibe. Some people don't like other people hugging them and all. And they like, I don't know you like that.
Yeah.
But if you can get over that, I promise you, if you just continue, the belts, doesn't matter. The skills will come. You can learn how to beat a bigger opponent. You can beat anyone if you want to, and you can gain confidence, and you can get fit, and you can get like a skill that travels with you for the rest of your life. Like, I can't see myself ever like doing another sport other than, MMA, jiu-jitsu. Boxing and kickboxing, very different, I see. I mean, anyone can throw a haymaker. If they just clip your jaw, that's it. Like, obviously, if you are super skilled and this person's very unskilled, it's going to be very difficult. But in jiu-jitsu, no one's just going to be off the street and be like, hey, and then armbar you. It doesn't work like that. Like, if you are unskilled, then as long as you keep the basics in mind and you like have learned enough, you should be able to defend yourself against 90% of untrained people. That BJJ is just a skill or a sport where you can just start from zero and just learn everything, and you should always work your way up. You should always, or you will always advance your skill level. You will always advance the arrows in your quiver, if you will. You'll always keep adding to it.
What was the toughest part for you? Because like you just got, okay, so it's quite a long journey that you've been on in jiu-jitsu, and you've been doing it for a very long time. But the one thing, like, for you, like with rolling with you, that stands out is like you have the ability to like submit people multiple ways, and like you don't do the same thing over and over, and you've got a very like cerebral, let's say, type of game. How did you what was like the key for you to develop that? Was it just like you said, perseverance and trying new things? Or?
I think so. I think also when I roll with people, I'm not a massive guy for like going, I'll do the same thing over and over and over again. Sometimes because if I know the person, then I'll go, okay, I know you struggle with arm bars, but I'm gonna do it in like different ways. just so that I can try and help you, because if I constantly go for it, you're constantly going to have to address it, and then sooner or later you'll be able to figure out. See, but if I do an armbar on you now, and then I go in 2 weeks and I'm going to do the armbar again, you haven't learned anything in between. But then other times I like to go, okay, how can I, get a submission in different ways? I don't want to just continuously, do the same thing over and over and over again, because it's also not going to help my game. Like if I'm doing the same submission on you over and over again, know that it's not for me, it's for you. You know, because when I do it against the white, blue, purple, brown, whatever belt, if I can catch you with the same thing over and over again, I'm trying to help you. I'm not trying to do it for me. You see, because then I've done it already once. I know I can do it.
Yeah.
But I change the submission so I can add to my game. See what works, see what doesn't work. You see, when you get to a later stage in your jiu-jitsu career, it's a lot more to do with, like, taking away what doesn't work and then adding the little pieces in. I wouldn't like change everything. I wouldn't change my whole game now. It's a bit, too late. I'm not going to watch one YouTube video and then be like, let's change the whole thing. It's like, no, I'm currently just, okay, this isn't like what I do. Okay. But that doesn't mean like when I get to my students, I wouldn't not teach them.
Yeah.
I would teach everyone everything and then be like, you're adding, I'm subtracting here. I know what works for me, what doesn't work for me. I've been doing this a while. I know what works for me. Here and there, I'll like change the technique up just to see what happens. But in general, I try and just think about the positions as I'm doing it. Like I'm always trying to figure out, how can you move and how can I stop you from doing that? How can I move and how can you not stop me from doing it? I try and think and analyze. I'm also like a more visual person. So if someone just explains it to me, I see it in my head.
Right.
But if I have to read it out, there's no way.
Yeah, I'm the same as well for the most part. Like I like it to see it while it's being explained to me.
Exactly. We used to do a thing, so when Rico would show a lot of drills and stuff, when we watched him do it, then afterwards I'd be like, yeah, but that drill that we're doing, like just the solo flow drill or whatever, I'm like, does that work in there? And then he'd be like, yeah, it works in there. That's where it goes. But you can also use it in here. I'm like, there it is. But you see it like you do a warm up, but we do like a hip escape, a warm up for example. You do a hip escape warm up, and then I would be like, okay, but can I use that if someone's on top of me? He's like, that's exactly what it's
supposed to go.
I'm like, yeah, awesome. But then I would see it there instead of going, oh, that's a hip escape. I'd never use that. And then someone mounts you and then they're like, do a hip escape. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. It's like, I would immediately be like, okay, cool. It would click immediately in that, like in that way. And also I'm pretty sure like also always doing sport from a young age probably helped, because my brother is the same. We all did sport from a young age. So I think it kind of helped with the mechanics. Rico used to say it helps that we had no prior martial arts training. It's very difficult to teach someone who's boxed a long time how to change their stance for kickboxing, maybe.
Right.
It's very difficult to teach a wrestler to sit on their back and play guard.
And not show their back to somebody.
Exactly. So it's very difficult to take that out of someone. You kind of have to scrape all that like bad techniques. That's what, for one thing, very single-minded. It's very hard to teach a Western Province rugby player not to tackle with their head first. You're not trying to just stop the person. You're trying to take them down and stay on top. So it's like the same with any sport. Like if I take a judo guy and teach him gi, great for grips, great for throws, but there's certain things that they're going to have to change, because it's not just throwing the person and then, stopping. It's also like if I threw him, there's like maybe 2 points in competition or 3 points in competition, but I still have to control and submit and keep working. If he stands
not done after the throw.
It's not done after the throw. Where in judo, if it's a good throw, it's, that's it.
Yeah. And so now going forward, I know you almost did the Submission Kings event.
Yes.
Do you think you'd be keen to do something like that again? The main event, if they offer it to you?
I'd love to do Submission Kings. They offered it to me for which one was it? Was it the middleweight title?
That was the middleweight title, I think,
yeah. With JP was going to do it.
Jelson was there. I think Christian
Cameron was going to do it, Cameron Preacher, but he also had to pull out. I think he had an injury. What's his name?
Jason Durant, I think, was also there.
Yes. and then
Chris
Steenkamp.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was quite a few guys that did it. It was fun to watch. Very sad that I couldn't take part, but while training for it, I kind of popped my rib. So and it was like a couple of weeks out, and I was like, oh, I was like, you know, that I can do it because I haven't competed. I was so keen to compete again, but then I couldn't, man. I couldn't bend. I couldn't breathe. I was literally like struggling. I remember, so it's sad, but yeah, they haven't messaged me again. So if they do, I would be keen.
I've actually messaged them about a couple of people at the gym, actually, just if they wanted alternative options. So, I mean, they're always looking. I know they're doing a middleweight title now. It's Chris versus, what's his name again? Desley Faithful.
Isn't that welterweight?
Is it welterweight?
I think
I might have missed because I thought Reese was welterweight champion. So you could actually be right. Because
I think it's a welterweight.
Okay, I'll have to double check on that one then. But I think they've got tournaments all the time. I think they're they're doing cool stuff because they want to get as many people and as many different titles and everything. But one thing I'd say, and that's what I messaged them about, was like maybe just getting some fresher faces. I mean, the people that are competing, they are really good. So that's one good thing. But if you're seeing sort of the same matches and the same people over and over, then it kind of could get a little bit stale, I guess.
It's also like the grappling world in general. It's like, unless you hear like a Craig Jones or a Nicky Rod or a Gordon Ryan or Felipe Pena, you're like, who's really compete? And then they're like, yeah, but it's some MMA guy that's retired. You're like, there's this UFC guy that's competing in grappling. You're like, oh, now I'll watch.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult to get people to watch grappling, like unless you're like a grappling purist. Like I love grappling. I love watching grappling. But like if it's not like a name thing, it's like,
I think they must get Johan Oosthuizen and Luke Griffith to have a super fight here in South Africa. I think a lot of people watch that.
I think a lot of people watch that.
Yeah, I think people will pay some good money for that.
I think so. I think it would be a hell of a match. Johan Oosthuizen is very, very good from what I've seen. I've unfortunately never rolled with him, but he's from what I've seen, he's very, very good. Yeah,
it's crazy how quickly that guy went up the ranks, because in Stellenbosch, when Nathan had his gym in Stellenbosch, Johan was there as a blue belt.
Yes.
And that was like 2011 or 12, I think. Yeah. And then fast forward a couple of years, he was a black belt. I mean,
like I said, there's some guys that have like the stars just align for them. They've got the natural ability. They learn it quickly, but they also have the athleticism to just, and they've got the body type. Like you don't have to be like this jack guy. You just have to be like, you can be like the lanky guy. You can be whatever shape. You can make it work. You just have to make it work for your, like, if you're, 5'5" and your coach is 6'3" and he's lanky and he's like, no, but just do this technique, and you're trying to do his type of jiu-jitsu, it becomes difficult. Like if you are a small guy and you're trying to do big guy jiu-jitsu, it becomes difficult. So with the grappling, it's difficult. Like with the guys you see also, the grappling, like purists will watch always, but it's difficult to get it constantly in the mainstream. But when it's in UFC Fight Pass, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, Craig Jones, I think, and Felipe Pena just had their match as well.
Craig won.
Yeah, Craig won on. Yeah, he's not the best number 2 in the world anymore. He came down to South Africa a couple of years ago, and you guys got to roll with him, eh?
Yeah,
or at least just learn from him.
Yeah,
did you have like a proper roll with him?
Yeah, he's like I couldn't believe it. Those guys would. I don't know if it's still like that, because I don't think he travels that much. I think he travels here and there. But back then, he would like roll with guys. There was nothing like a timer. He would just roll with him.
But like multiple people, or
yeah. So he rolled with me for a while, and then he rolled with someone else for a while, and then he rolled with someone else for a while. Like before the seminar started, you just do like roll, and then he just rolled and rolled and rolled. And I was like, holy crap, this guy just rolled. I was tired after hour. Me and him rolled, but he was like, it was like watching like Picasso paint, dude. It's something different. Like he just knows exactly what you're gonna do, and then
so effortless.
Yeah, it's was it that Sun Tzu that said like he knows himself and he knows his enemy, so he's already won. He just needs to like actually finish it.
Yeah.
And with a lot of guys, he just rolled. Everyone is like, oh, he's like this leg locker, because leg locks were obviously a big thing when it was starting out back then. It's still obviously a big thing. But when he was rolling with guys, it was like he wasn't even going for the legs. He was just moving half guard, take their back, go for the submissions the whole time, every time. Like I think I went side control, then he was on my back, and then I would go mount, and then the next moment he's on my back, and I was like, "What the hell? How do you do this?" But he's, I like, you also don't realize how big the guy. They don't look at, but he's like, he is quite big.
Really?
Yeah, he was quite big. Like not like, I don't know. He's like built for jiu-jitsu. He's got like long arms, long legs, smallish upper body, but he's not short. He's like a little bit taller than the normal. Like he's a little bit taller than me. So he was like, I think he was like, he's got the perfect build, and just the right amount of steroids just to get perfect at it.
I actually don't know. Allegedly. I don't know if he. I mean, look, I've never seen him in person, but he talks a lot about the doping and stuff in all of the jiu-jitsu events. So it would be very ballsy of him to talk about it and be on some stuff himself. Maybe hiding in plain sight.
It's the best way to do it.
That's the best way to do it. It's just be like, I do this, that.
I do all this.
People do this except us, So that's crazy, man. How long was he down for? Like, how long did you guys get to actually do?
I think he was just here for the seminar. He rolled here a bit. He gave the one seminar on, I think he was like the half of the Z-guard entries back then. So all the getting to the back and then like getting to the legs. And then I think he was in PE for a while, but he wasn't like super long in SA in general.
Who brought him down? Do you know?
I think Chris Pratt.
Chris brought him down.
I think Chris, because he was traveling with Chris the whole time. I think when they were here, there was an event of UFC in Cape Town that same day.
Really?
So Chris and them were here as well. So the guys that were competing that night were not like rolling. They were just there about walking around in Cape Town and stuff.
Sure. What a once in a lifetime opportunity, man.
Yeah, it is. There's not a lot of it's unfortunate, but there's not a lot of like overseas guys that are just like, let's go to South Africa. That's like, I mean, I don't know why. It's a great like avenue. Obviously, we're always behind on everything. So when they come here, they're still going to be able to teach us a lot. But they're just like, what's the point?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to teach 20,000 people just to get like what I would get from. Yeah, exactly. It's also like who can bring the people down and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, maybe Cameron and Drickus, with their achievements, and then if the UFC now finally comes down to South Africa, I'm hoping they come to Cape Town and they do they have to do a PI, I think, to like really establish UFC in South Africa.
Like
so maybe that
Asia.
So maybe that will sort of get people to come here, because it's like it's got everything here. Like if you wanted to come down to go do a seminar and have a really good time outside of the seminar, it's like one of the best places to do it.
Exactly. There's nothing like, especially if we've got money.
And you'll be balling. International currency.
You don't even need like a lot.
Yeah.
Like I know from like a lot of friends when they come over, they're like, dude, everything is cheap as chips here, bro.
Have you watched Euro Trip where they go to where they go to Eastern Europe and then they've got like a couple of pennies.
Yeah.
And then they're like super rich in that country.
Super rich, exactly. That's exactly what it is here.
That's how you'll get you. So
yeah, you don't need to bring a lot of money.
Yeah.
And if you come with no money, just give one seminar and you're a billionaire again.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah. I wonder what do you think someone like that would charge for a seminar? I mean, now it'd probably be like, I would have thought like $100,000.
Probably.
Is that too much, or I don't know? That's a lot of money to cough up.
It is just if you like, if you have to pay that, and then, because I think what happens a lot of times, like maybe he has a price, and then you pay that price. He comes over, he gives a seminar and goes, and then you keep all the money from the people. But I'm not sure, but like that would be like, obviously they work on a standard price. I mean, from when I've given seminars, that's if you have to travel, it's the easier way to do it. Instead of going, no, it's per student, and it's like, but what if only so many students come? Then you're like, oh shit, now I have to give another seminar and another, and then it becomes watered down seminars.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I guess it is tough. It's all about the money, and like our exchange rate's not the best. So
90% of the world is, you can say whatever you want. Everything's about the money.
It's all about the money. Tell me, last thing. Obviously, I know you as our coach met you first as our coach at the club and stuff. What's been one of the most like rewarding things as a coach? Like, what do you enjoy it?
I love it. I love it. I think it was Charles Sundin who said, coaching is very selfless. Fighting is very selfish. So when I started coaching, I could feel myself not like having that like competitive drive. Like I would find myself rolling with guys and being like, dude, just work a little bit harder and trying to coach them through it. Even if it was guys that are just like almost on my level, I would be like, dude, you're doing so well. But I could feel myself like not wanting to kill people, in training, like trying to like just dominate everyone, which used to be the case. You get into the gym, you want to fight and you want to beat up everyone. You want to be the best. Now it's like, I want to see the best in everyone. So for me, like the best parts is like going to like events, watching the guys fight and then seeing them win and just seeing that like, raw emotion coming out of them, like that excitement that like when I think when we had it was a WPFL way back, we had a few guys competing that was like my first, like, okay, I've got a guy competing and I've got to help him. It's like, it was nerve wracking because you feel like whatever the mistake is, you're going to get it. Like everyone's going to be like, oh, you told him to throw a low kick and he got knocked out, But if he wins, it's all him. It's, if I coach a guy through a jiu-jitsu fight and he wins, it's all him.
It's him.
Everyone's like, well done, you know. But if he loses, everyone's like, gee, your gym sucks, dude. Or you suck, or your coach sucks, sorry. So it is, it was the first instance at like, I think it was like at the WPFL 1, where I had a few guys compete and they were just like so excited. And I was like, man, this is like, it's such a rewarding feeling. It's like, I helped him get there. It's like, it's not me. I didn't even do anything. I didn't fight. I just helped him through it. And I feel like, you feel part of the person's journey. You feel like you really helped them attain something, whether they continue training or not. It's just, honestly, I can understand why people like shift to coaching a lot. But it's hard when you are still so actively competitive.
Right.
It's hard to go, okay, I just want to, I'm constantly trying to fight and be the best and, always win every round, everything. And then go to, oh man, let me help you. Let me help the coach kids class or something. It's very selfish. When you're fighting, it's very selfless when you're coaching. So it's for me, it's rewarding. It's also nice when I see someone that I can remember started as like knowing nothing and like walking into the gym like, I don't know,
timid and scared.
What do I do with my shoes? I was like, no shoes on the mat. And then like the next moment you're giving them a blue belt and you're like, geez, this is like, when they quit that blue belt, either way, it doesn't matter. But when they get to like, just to be more confident in themselves, when they actually know a skill, it's awesome, man. Like I can teach you how to bench press, but like in 10 years, you're not gonna. It's not gonna mean much. Yeah, but if I teach you how to choke someone out, it's gonna be, you're gonna be able to go to your kid. If someone messes with you, choke. I can teach you a skill that you can carry on for the rest of your life. And I've seen that. Like, I think Andrew coaches the kids class, like, because I coached him when he started. Andrew coached him when he started, and now he's coaching the kids classes. And watching him coaching the kids is like, it's quite rewarding. It's like, oh, that's pretty awesome. It's like you taught someone something that they can teach someone else, and now you see the kid do well in the competition. You're like, that's like a trickle down effect. It's like, and Rico's like, hey, I taught Hermie, who taught him, who taught that kid, so it's even better. I understand why people gravitate towards coaching, because it's quite rewarding. It's way more fulfilling as well. It's like even the losses you wear with your student, maybe not as hard as them, but the wins, it's like it brings everything back together. And we as a team there at Reps, it also, you can also feel the camaraderie, and then you can feel when someone wins, everyone feels like they're better. And I feel like if I coach someone to get to a win, it always feels awesome. It really, really feels rewarding, down to your core almost.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I can imagine it's especially like you say, the people that you can, they come in very timid, and then they can be then you get them to be the complete opposite. And kids as well. I mean, I even look at the progression of those kids in that kid class, because when Rico and I did an episode, it was just after kids class, and I was watching some of those kids, and then I saw them now at the last Alpha, and I was like, that's the same kid.
That's the same kid. Some of those kids, bro, I've seen some kids like hit techniques, and I'm like, what? how do you, you know, but like, that's also the part, like, that's also the evolution of jiu-jitsu. Like, some of the people now, like those Rotolo brothers, like, everyone was taught back in the day, you know, position, submission, position, submission. Those guys are going, no, I'm going to go for the submission and just, you know, get it from there.
Hail Mary.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a constantly, and then they scramble constantly. And I see that a lot of the guys, they're working a lot more towards getting the submission first. Like, I still feel in jiu-jitsu, you need your basics, you know, you need a set of, like, I know what I'm doing here, and then I can branch out from there. But a lot of these guys are just like, nah, I'm just going to go straight for the submission. And for some of them, it works. For some of them, it doesn't. But that's the beauty of jiu-jitsu. You have to kind of figure out how you make it work for you, not the other way around. You don't, like, you learn the techniques and then you work them where you want them. I always say it's like, jiu-jitsu is like driving a car, like learning to drive a car. You know, when you start out, you're in the car and you're all nervous and you're like, okay, what does this do? What does this do? What does this do? You know, what is this? What is this? And then jiu-jitsu is the same. You start out and you're like, I don't know what is this? What is a grip? What do you mean a collar? What do you mean, you know, hip escape? And then after a while, you start learning what all these things are. And then you start putting them together. Now you're in the car and you're driving and you're like, oh, this works. You know, this is what I'm doing. But now you're not focusing on what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
And then everyone else is focused on what you're doing and you're not really in it. So when you get to like purple belt, then you're like, okay, I can focus on what he's doing. I know where he wants to go. So I'm just going to, like, when you're driving and someone like wants to merge, you can see them coming. So you kind of like give them away. Same as in jiu-jitsu. I know you want to bridge and go. So I'm going to let you go a little bit and then I'm going to step over. I'm going to, you know, let you shoot for the takedown because I know you're going to sprawl. I can see, you can kind of read what the other people wants to do. You can also feel it a lot of the times. So with jiu-jitsu, it's a lot like that. It's also like in the beginning, and also if you start earlier, it's also better, you know.
Of course, yeah.
But when you in the car, in the jiu-jitsu, as the more you do it, the easier it becomes. You know, you don't get better by just watching other people drive. You don't get better by just watching videos. You have to actually go and do it. Yeah, you can't just, you know, I'm learning from watching. It's like, yeah, you can, but to a point.
Yeah, you can chuck out all the stuff you don't need. You can chuck out your 3 checks at the back for your blind spot.
Yeah, exactly. I don't need that anymore.
No, I don't need that anymore. I'll just do one little check. Or some people don't check at all, BMW drivers. But anyway.
Yeah, so, that's true.
Yeah.
But those cars don't come with indicators, so it's fine.
Yeah, true. Those cars don't drive themselves in any event. So yeah.
Most of the time. Yeah.
No, cool, man. Hermie, thank you so much for joining us. And like I really hope next year, after I know the wedding planning and stuff, that's like a full-time thing.
It is, you'd know, but
so yeah,
it's a full-time.
It's a full-time thing.
4th job for me, so
exactly.
It's busy, man. It keeps you busy.
Yeah, once all of that's done, I really hope you get to compete, whether it's just in jiu-jitsu or MMA or both. It'd be really, really cool. Cool to see that happen. And
yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, definitely keen to see that. So I hope that happens.
Hopefully. It's not a lot of pressure, at least. Like
the whole club like, behind you, like, hey,
everyone's like, hey, you should dominate. It's like, maybe. We'll see. Jiu-jitsu is a weird thing.
Yeah.
You're getting a lot more like blue belts messing up brown and black belts than you are.
And real blue belts, eh? Not sandbagging blue belts.
And it's weird, yeah. The guys it's crazy, man. The guys are starting, you know, getting their blue belt and then they able to do crazy shit. And then the black belts are like, but I'm a black belt. It's like, it doesn't mean anything if you don't like work to make it mean something.
Apply it, yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully I can compete a few times next year, you know, in MMA if possible. I don't know. In the UFC maybe, but if there's any other promotion, I would go for it. But yeah, hopefully, like jiu-jitsu, I'll definitely compete with. It's even just the Alpha or AJP or ADCC. I'm gonna make a plan. Just this year is a bit. Yeah, you got some other things going on. You know? Yeah, you want to keep full focus on that. That's like, yeah, it's not easy. It isn't. But it's the progression of life. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Hermie. Hopefully I'll see you at the evening class again. I'm gonna try come again, but I hope so. For now, it's just the morning classes. But that's okay. They're still good. So all the strong people are. Yeah, that's true. Cool. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Hey everybody, I'm really, really excited to announce that I've partnered with a healthy food meal prep company. Their name is Plated Convenience.
They've got all sorts of healthy meals, chicken, beef, fish. They've even got vegan options. Head over to the link in my description or www.platedconvenience.co.za. Go there, customize your meals, use the discount code #HackCheck10 at checkout for 10% on your next order. Thanks for watching, guys.